Lead the charge.
Lead the charge. We're back. Episode 6. It's been a little while, right? We had a little bit of a break there. You ran away to Europe for a couple of weeks, and now you're back better than ever.
I did.
I was sick for a little while, but now we're kind of back on track. How does it feel to be back?
Good. It was a nice, needed vacation, so I'm happy.
Nice and rested?
Yeah, ready to go.
Got a lot of natural energy going through you today, too?
Yeah, we'll call it natural energy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. So I'm excited for this one. This is episode number 6. Then this one's going to be a little bit more unique than the previous ones that we've done, right? We've had a lot of different conversations, but this is the first time we actually have somebody on the episode that we don't know personally, that we know through our friends at MCA. So I'm really excited for this one. Today we have Steve the Dragon Claggett on the episode, and he's ranked number 1 in Canada in his weight class in boxing. So I am super excited for this. A lot of you who know me know this, and probably know this about Kai as well too, but those who don't know us, we're huge fans of everything when it comes to combat sports. So it's been, growing up with Jean-Claude Van Damme to Arnold Schwarzenegger, whatever it is, whatever generation it is that we had grown up with, I think we were heavily influenced by that. One of the purest forms of that is boxing. So I'd like to introduce Steve. Steve, welcome to the show, man. We're happy to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So, coming into this conversation, I was really curious about learning more about you as an individual and how you got into this. I think that's the most interesting part, right? We're all pretty young guys and we all have different paths that we end up on. How did you get into the sport?
I got put into boxing because I had an aggressive streak. So I played other sports, and I played hockey, I played soccer, I played, just swimming, I played basketball. Like, I did all these other sports, but I had something of a temper and something of an aggressive streak. So eventually I kept getting into fights in hockey, fights in school as well, just things that kind of sent me, I was getting in trouble. And then eventually my mother was like, I'm going to put you in something that where you're supposed to fight. So she put me into boxing, and it was like day one. I was like, this is something for me, because it was a vent for all the aggression. It gave me an outlet, and it was no negative was coming from it. It was all a good thing. So that's how I found boxing.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I feel like there's a lot that I can relate to in that, in you opening up with that aggression piece and then being able to find something that was a healthy outlet. Did you find that as soon as you engaged in boxing, all of a sudden your energy just lined up and you were able to just focus without having to apply any effort?
Well, in regards to the gym, yes, because as soon as I started training, I liked it, and it would kind of take all my attention, and then it kind of forces like a mindfulness on you, because you're not thinking of what you did yesterday, you're not what you did earlier today. You're thinking on what you're trying to do. You're thinking about your movements and everything like that. So it kind of forces you into the moment, and that's good. And there, I knew what I was doing, because it was just acting on instinct. But as far as like outer life, I was still in trouble. I was still, kind of an aggressive by nature kind of guy. And outside of boxing, I was still trying to find my way. So it took me some time.
And how long have you been boxing for now?
Man, 22 years. Which is a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, my whole life. I started when I'm like 11, so it's been a while.
That's pretty amazing. The funny thing is, we talk about our moms a lot, and it's interesting that you open with that as well too. We both have great fathers as well too, but our moms were the ones that there was something special about that relationship that allowed us to be able to find our path a lot easier in life.
Right.
And whether we have our own version of our stories about our moms, and I'm sure they have their own versions of their stories, but that's pretty incredible to hear that your mom actually got you on that path. And it's interesting how like mothers will do that for their sons, right?
Yes, she understood that I needed an outlet, something to kind of vent into and put all my, all this energy that I had into something, and it would turn out to be a positive. And then I think similar traits run in the bloodline, because my mom is an anxious mind, and she goes and goes and goes. And then she knows when you have a focus point, when you have something to work on, you can channel that energy and you can use it towards something good. And then she put me on the right path, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. And how do you find your mom's Well, it's been 22 years, right? So I mean, she's obviously seen you go through a lot. How is she now that the sport has progressed to where you are right now, where you're ranked #1 in your weight class and you've been through all these ups and downs? How's that been for her?
Well, I mean, it has been a lot of ups and downs for her. And I know that because I had tough fights. I had wins and losses. So she saw me at my highest and best states. She saw me in my lowest. And I know it was really hard on her, especially like the first fight that I ever lost. It was bad. And then I ended up having a concussion. I remember I was in the Philippines. Like, my mom has to keep me up all night to make sure I don't slip into a coma. And this, because you don't want to fall asleep when you have a concussion, you're all rattled. It's like, it's a potential. So I remember how impactful it was, how hard that was. And I know that my mom was suffering as much as I was at that time, because this is like, it's your blood, it's your family.
Yeah.
And it's been like a rough roller coaster for the whole family, because they're all with me like 100%. But now that I've gotten to this stage where I'm calling more of my own shots, I have stability, I've proven my ability to do these things. Now she's comfortable. Now she's happy, and she's always been supportive, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the early years.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, it was a lot of ups and downs, man.
Yeah, that's intense. And I think we always end up talking about this, especially when it comes to mothers. No matter what, they're gonna worry.
Yeah.
That's just how they are, right? Like, even today, like, our moms. I'll share a small little story here. Yesterday, so my sister and my niece are visiting, and she's 7 years old and she's on a scooter, but she's never gone down a hill. So I had taken her to the hill that's in my neighborhood to see, like, let's see what we can actually do here, because my mom has a lot of access to her, and I think that
Right.
that love in the form of worrying can be overwhelming in itself, right? So, and the kid just nailed it. We did the hill the first time and just kept on smashing the hill after. I couldn't get her to come back inside. She wanted videos, and she was
Right.
really amped on it. And it's interesting how that happens, is that an external force has to almost allow that original momentum that a mother applies on their children to be able to take over.
Yeah.
So did you have that as you were kind of going into the realm of boxing? Was there somebody that was important in your life that allowed you to be able to propel forward and gain some traction?
My father, my dad was there 100%, and he was something of an athlete himself. He was a hockey player, and he was a very, very good one. And I know that as he put his hockey dreams aside, he put his he put his family first. And then I know that he enjoys the process of seeing me do it, because I'm doing it kind of with his support for him to like live out the dreams that we're doing together. So he's like somebody's always had my back, though, no matter how crazy things got. My mother, I have her emotional support, everything like that. My dad, I have for, okay, we're gonna hold it down, we're gonna do this, and this kind of, I don't know. I guess I've been very lucky to have a family that's so supportive, because I would not have been able to do it without them.
Yeah, it's crazy when you have a good family core, right? And yeah, it's wild. One thing that we should acknowledge as well too, and I think I was able to crank this out of Kai before the podcast actually started. He used to box. He doesn't want to bring it up because obviously it's not #1 in Canada with one man. It's like yeah, but you still box. So, and it seems like you guys know the same people, or at least similar paths of individuals cross, because Calgary's a pretty big city now. I think we looked at the population, at least based on what you see online, about 1.6 million people. That's true. Yeah.
And it's really growing right now. The last couple of years, it has been. I've seen it go from to world class in like just a few years. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
And remember, in boxing, we always say it's like it's an internal journey. So some people are in just for a couple months, but you learn so much about yourself. You go inwards, you find stuff. Oh, I'm good at this. I'm not good at this. I don't like this. My balance, whatever it is. And then that's why I always like to help people come into the gym and learn about themselves and push, because it's an internal journey. You discover inside yourself what you're made of, and then only if you feel the passion for it do you go and test it against somebody else's. But this is kind of the name of the game,
That's interesting, but yeah, I feel like what Gursh was alluding to is to share the stories when I was younger, and I think it's like, I'm trying to think, when was the gym in Silver Springs in that strip mall there?
So I was around before we had the gym. Eric and I were Eric, the owner of Teal Fister Boxing. We were doing, I guess, personal training sessions at that point, just hitting the pads and stuff in Fitness Northwest, which is right beside. And then we did that for the first couple months, and then Eric opened up Teal Fista. I honestly, I could not even tell. Maybe 2003, like 2000, like it was somewhere. I'm not sure. I don't have the exact dates, but I remember going from nothing, training in the corner of a fitness gym, to my trainer Eric opening his own gym and having his own space. And then I remember I was teaching the kids because I come here right after school. I'd go to the gym, get off the bus, and go teach kids class, teach a recreational class, and then I train. And then I think this routine was good for me, though. It kind of embedded the game into my heart. And then this is the growth. I mean, in regards to the gym and myself, that's why boxing is a beautiful journey, man.
Yeah. No, that's funny you said, because I was like trying to think. I remember there was definitely a secret that I was going there. So my buddy that took me there was Mason.
Yeah.
So my mom would always be totally against it. Like, you can't go to boxing stuff, so I'd always go there like low key and like mess around. And then I don't remember why I stopped going, because I remember I met Eric too. And then like he was there for a long time, and then you guys moved. Are you guys still on that acreage outside?
Yes, that's Eric's place, and he opened. I mean, he opened a gym in his backyard, literally.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's nice. That's sweet.
Yeah, and it was cool. And I mean, that's why boxing is cool, because you go on these different journeys. Everybody finds their way, and I mean, I'm wishing Eric nothing but success. I see him all the time in the fights and stuff, so that's a cool relationship too. Because he's not my trainer anymore, but he's my friend. And
how long is he your trainer for?
Over a decade. Like a long time. Started me when I'm 11, 12 years old, and then all the way up. Hey, he was with me when I turned pro at 19, and then we had our first fights, and then we had, like a lot of experience together, a lot of learning together. And so Eric and I have been through a lot, man. So we're close friends still.
Yeah, it's interesting just hearing you guys talk about this as well too. I think there's one question that needs to be addressed, is how you got into it has a lot of weight behind it, right? And obviously that momentum carried where it turned into the passion. Why did you start boxing?
Like I said, I think it was just the thing that my mom was like, "Don't do this.
It's gonna rebel.
Do it. I'm gonna try it." And I just liked it. Like, I think it was the physical aspect of it, of like just being different. Because I grew up like loving soccer, played a lot of that, and it was just the opposite of that. And then obviously being friends with Mason, like he was doing it as well.
Yeah.
He did it for a while. I don't remember his whole.
He did it for a long time. Mason was good, man.
Yeah, it was, and so like it was cool to see him and kind of just be a part of it. And then I was. Yeah, that's kind of what got me into it. It's like you said, it's the journey and like the joy of it. And it was a super cool sport that was like so different from what I was used to. So like that was why I liked it, because it was just like exciting.
You test your mettle against somebody else. And even in sparring, even in the gym. And at first you have to test yourself. So that part's cool too. And that's why all this growth happens. And at least all these different outlets in the physical world, you get... Your speed gets good. You get good at running. You get good at whatever, hitting the bag well. And it's just, there's so much is infinite in it. And that's why, like any sport, I guess. And it's cool because it opens doors.
Yeah. And I was just hearing you guys talk about it as well too. I always have had this internal itch to box. Yeah. I have kids now, and I don't know if I'll want to brisket, but I had started off with Kung Fu. And I started that when I was, I think, 7, and I did that just shy of black belt. And I did wrestling. Wrestling was when that connection happened for me, where I was like, everything just dialed in and all the noise went away. Right. And I felt like I went into like a state of focus. And then I switched over to Samba, and then I did Muay Thai. And then it was just like, after that, I just ended up getting involved in like normal life and just doing other things.
But then you always have the understanding of combat, the self-belief that I can do it. So it's a good thing. That's why I'm all for put the kids in combat sports too, because it'll help them a lot with their confidence, and they don't have to fight. You just practice.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've always been for, and I still am. And you know what? I used to teach young kids when I was, I was probably 14 at the time, and now I run into the same kids sometimes, every once in a while, and they will tell me something. Oh, you remember when you taught me how to stand with this good posture? He's like, I always remember that. Like, and it's good because I affected somebody on a personal level, and then later in their life, I see them and it's doing them good. So this is something, I love that. I think that that's a good way to pass it on as well.
You're just listening to you and trying to find where you keep on gravitating towards. It seems like that's, out of everything that I'm hearing you say, it seems like that's what really matters to you, is passing it on to the next generation. Am I right about that? Or
Definitely, because it's not forever. You know what I mean? This ride doesn't go forever. So it'll try and leave something that people can remember you by, but especially if you can do it one-on-one. I just want to leave a legacy, I guess.
yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And like, there's so much power in that mindset. And I know, there's a lot of people that are listening to this that know the story of Zeno, but there's a few people that don't. And for us, that's why we started this. We wanted to make sure that we had an organization that was focused on preserving the planet for future generations, and the path that we're taking is solar, right? And electric vehicle charging and batteries to be able to reduce our carbon footprint and as best as we can. I mean, there's no perfect solution, but we know that that's what it's all about, is a legacy. Is like, how are you going to be remembered? And all of that goes back to one specific thing. And my personal belief in anything that an individual can do is that combat sports is where honor matters more than anything else. And one of the best examples I've seen of it, and the reason why I want to bring up this specific fight, is because I want to understand who's your influence. You know Triple G and Canelo? When Canelo slipped and fell down on one knee, and Triple G was right there, but lifted his hand and backed off and walked away. He could have ended him right there, right? But that moment was always known as a pivotal moment, and they say only the greatest boxers are able to do that. Most boxers would have taken that shot.
Right.
I even feel like a Floyd Mayweather would have taken that shot.
Because it's the sportsmanship.
Yeah, and that's where the class actually is, right? So who in that realm of things do you look up to? Who's the boxer that kind of set the example for you that you wanted to emulate?
I always like Manny Pacquiao because he's for the people. And this is something that I love that. I mean, as far as relationship to your fans and stuff, I think that Manny's the guy that I look up to for that, because he gives out nothing but a positive look on who he is. He's helping people. He donates. Everybody's got flaws. There's ups and downs, but for the general public, he's amazing. You know, and this is something, this is a good legacy to leave as well, because you don't want people to only know you as your fighter. Because there's a lot of us in the game where when I fight, I'm a different guy than I am here right now. And the ability to separate, I went my whole life trying to find the balance. Where do I get to be mean and use my intensity, use my aggression, use all those things that were one-time event needed, where I had to let go of all this pent-up aggression. And I found the channel for it. And then outside of the ring, you're back to normal life. And then this separation was really tough for me for a long time. But then I figured out, okay, I was able to, compartmentalize the mind. So when I'm in the ring, when I'm training, when I'm on fight mode, when I'm in training camp, whatever it is, I flip the switch. And that's a good skill to have, not just for being able to execute, but for keeping your sanity as well, because you can't be on go mode all day. And then you go to the other side, you live your family life, you have your friends, you have your, social life, whatever it is, you give back, you help the kids, you help teach, you pass it on, pay it forward. And like these two, the ability to separate those, that's like, it's needed for fighters. I think it's really needed for fighters.
I'm hearing this and I'm feeling I need this too.
Hey, man, do.
Yeah, boxing.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting pulled into jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
Like my buddies, Dave Pookie, he's well known in the industry, in the community. I suppose not industry, but in the community. And he's passed me off to a couple of his buddies here locally, and they bug me. They're like, "Come on, man!"
As they say, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and boxing are the two most applicable in a self-defense situation or a street altercation if something were to happen, because you're close range, things happen. This is how it is. So jiu-jitsu boxing, two great ones for keeping yourself safe and for self-confidence. And this is like the big thing, man. That's why I'm all for it. Like everyone's starting fight sports because you learn about yourself. It's a beautiful journey.
Yeah, it's very honest. It's very honest in exposing where your weaknesses are, especially if you do get into that level that you were talking about where you're fighting, right? So yeah. And with that in mind, well, obviously you probably had a lot of tough times, right? What would you say over this last 22 years was one of the hardest moments that you had in the sport?
Oh man, I have had so many tough times in the game of boxing. I mean, starting from the very beginning, when I was turning professional, I was in a rough spot in my life. I had kind of cast everything aside. I was not on good terms with my family. I left the house. I was living with friends. I was doing all sorts of, just getting in trouble. And this decision to turn professional was life-changing because I could have went this way or this way. And I decided, like how I started boxing, if I put everything into boxing and go professional, this will answer. And I didn't know if I wanted to do it. So this was like one of the toughest things I ever had to do, make the leap into the game. But now I'm like, that was the best thing I ever did. So sometimes the decision is tough, but if you know the right course that you should take, it take a little courage, but it'll be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were going through that process of having to make that decision, you separated yourself from known stability, I suppose, let's call it. Was that important? Did you have to be able to go into the depths of who you were to be able to understand what it was like to move forward? What was that process like?
I guess the self-discovery, like now in hindsight, it seems much different because when I was in the middle of it, I was just thinking forward, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I need to do something that's drastic. I need to do something. And then turning professional boxing, like in boxing as like an 18, at the time when I made the decision, I was 18, and making that decision was tough. It was tough, but it's a matter of self-belief that, good people around you is very, very important as well. Because even at that point in time, I had a gym full of friends and just kind of companions and teammates and stuff, and they helped me make the right decision. But turning pro, that was a tough one, man. That was tough.
A quick action jump in on that is, people always ask us like, why, when you guys started the company, what was like that decision that made you be like, let's do it? What was that for you with going pro? Why were you like one day to the next, like, I want to do it?
Well, I will tell you guys, it's not the best thing, but I was, like I said, I was in a lot of trouble as an amateur fighter. I was fighting outside too, and I got into some altercations that past week, and it happened more than once, more than twice. And I remember sitting on my friend's balcony, and let's just make the story short, I got let out of the holding cell the night before, and I said, my life is going downhill, and I got to make a decision here. I'm like, maybe I should take up the offer that I was given an offer a couple months ago to turn professional because I had won the Golden Gloves. I said, maybe I should put it into boxing and like I should go pro. Maybe I should do that. And like I remember having a good friend. He's still my good friend. He's sitting beside me and he's like, you should go pro. And it was just plain. And that was like the moment that I was like, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move into the boxing gym, back room and train and do 100%. And that was the decision that changed my whole life, man. And I'm glad I made it.
That's real cool. It's cool to hear that. Just like, yeah, it's wild how like one decision
changed everything. And you know what? The cool thing is, that was then, but now when I'm getting ready for fights, these decisions occur again. Like if I do this, this will make the difference. I often do that to myself where I'm like, if I make this big decision right now and I do all this crazy training schedule, whatever it is, or in this case that I'm in right now, I go to Montreal for my training camps, the end of training camps, and it was a big step, but that mental, okay, I'm doing this 100%, this gets the job done, man. And then every time I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I made that decision. And so like solid decision making is an important skill to have.
Yeah, and it's a skill that's developed, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that comes naturally. And I suppose, even going back to the conversation that we were having earlier about our mothers, it's like it's about taking risk.
Right.
It's about taking that risk and then continuously doing it over and over again. But every single time you do it on the same path, I feel, from my perspective at least, that it becomes less and less risky.
Yeah.
Even though the stakes get higher, it doesn't feel as crazy as it once did, right?
I had a good trainer one time who told me a great metaphor, and he said, and it applies here as well. He's like, in boxing, you have a ring of keys. He's like, when you go through these things, when you go through these courses, these houses, whatever it is, you have a key for this door, a key for this door, but as time goes on, you begin to add keys to your keychain. And then the same rules apply in life. And I get better at this skill. I get better at this skill. So now I got this ring, this thing that holds all these keys, and I got all these keys to open all these different doors. And then going through the journey of life, I know I have this one for the, negotiations or whatever, this one for confidence. So you always want to add to your repertoire. You always want to add to yourself. And then you take that with you wherever you go. It's like Buddha. It's like wherever you go, there you are. If you have your set of keys, you're good. You can open all these different doors because you know what you can do. So that's always a work inwards. I always thought of that, and I always will think of that. And that's something that gets me through training camps. And every training camp that goes by,
Yeah.
I feel like I got a better key set.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. I love that analogy. And it's going inwards is one of the most important things you can do as an individual, and it's the scariest thing you can do as an individual, because being able to look at yourself in the mirror or even on cameras is difficult for a lot of people, because it exposes what you truly look like from an external perspective and how you live in that space. But I can't imagine there's like anything that's probably more exposing than being in a ring. So is that something that do you find that, like you fought 45 times, right? Your 46th fight coming up, probably in the near future. How's the nerves? Do you still have that when you go into there in every single fight, or what is it like this deep into the game now?
You still get all the nerves because every fight's its own battle, and every camp is its own struggle, and they're filled with its own struggles. And every time you go through it, it's like, doesn't matter if you go through it 1,000 times, you'll go through the same kind of process. And the trick is then to figure out how to do the same process better, and you find different ways to make it smoother, make it more advantageous for yourself, how to go through less. And this is like rinse and repeat. You get a better kind of feel for how your mind works, how your body works. But every fight I get the same pressure feeling, the same nerves, and I think that's forever. You're just always going to go through that. But what happens is you get a better set of keys to get through this same process again and again and again. And the more different ways you look at it, the more answers you have to more problems. So same struggles, but I got more tools in my tool belt that handle these problems.
Yeah, I love that. Well, too. We just kind of both run marathons. We've done 5 so far.
Nice.
And it's not a high frequency. I guess it's not a high quantity in terms of marathons we've done. Like this last one, same. Took all the mistakes made in the first 4, and then we absolutely decimated this one. It was such a good feeling when you go on there just efficient.
Yeah.
It felt good. We have one more Edmonton Marathon's coming up on August 20th. I definitely don't want to do it.
Yeah. Preparation is the key. Hey.
Yeah, I'm running right after this. I'm going to be once I get through my work and check out, I'm going home and running. So
you know what? I don't know if it applies here, but in boxing they say the nerves make you fast. So when you're nervous, you're tense and makes you move quick.
Yeah.
I mean, this one's a little bit different because it's not a quick sprint; it's a marathon. But you'll find a way.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, you have. It seems like you're really grounded when it comes down to when you're getting into the ring and you have this process in place. What's your big goal here now? Now that you've established yourself, you're building the name, you're helping out the community. What do you see as the grand vision for your life in the sport, and just as a general individual? Like, do you have a vision for your life that you're kind of swinging towards?
World title. That's what I want. That's what I'm going for. That's what I've been working my whole life for. And if I'm able to get the shot, when I get the shot, I'm ready to be the first world champion ever from Calgary, and that's my goal. That's what I'm setting out to do, and that's something that I knew I wanted to do, but it gradually, the scope got more and more narrow as I reached, higher up in the game, and now it's a possibility, and now I'm ranked up in the top 20, 15, I believe, in the world, and so I'm on the way, and now I just got to do the work, and this is where I'm very happy. I'm grateful for that, too, because it's like I got the ball now, and I can show them. I've been running my whole life, so watch me do this. So it's the world title. That's what I want. And then probably open up a gym so I can pass it on after.
And it sounds like it's all about Calgary, right? So do you want to open a gym here as well too?
I would love to. Because Calgary's growing. It's like the last decade, especially, I've just seen the city go from just like a big city is always a big city, but we didn't have so much happening. And now, if you look around Calgary, there's new everything. All my friends have these new businesses, new restaurants, there's new industries, literally. Even when I first was a professional, when I turned professional, there's probably 2 fighters in the whole city. Now I think there's 20 or something like that. So this is over the last decade or so. So this is just, I've witnessed the growth, and I love it. And I would love to have a gym in Calgary, because it's like, it's always got a place in my heart. Even if I have to go abroad for a little bit or move across the country for a while, we'll see. But Calgary always has a place in my heart. It's my home.
Yeah, beautifully said, man. And I agree with you as well too. I'm not from here. I moved to Calgary 10ish years ago, and I mostly grew up in Edmonton. But since I've been in Calgary, and I think this is the biggest thing, there's no single place for everybody where it works for everybody. Every city has a different energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to find the place that's for you. And I guess I'm talking to people that are watching this, is that I find that in life, if you are in a place where things don't feel right, sometimes what you need is change. And it could just be as simple as the change in scenery. But after I travel, wherever I go, I always come back to Calgary, and I just feel excited to be here. And you just got back from some time off.
Yeah.
How do you feel now that you're back? Like, do you have that sensation that you always talk about?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So I went to 3 different countries in Europe, and just seeing the difference of lifestyle, and then coming back here, and like, home is just home. Like you're saying, I actually originally was born in Germany, but I moved here when I was 6, and again, like, it just feels like home here. You come back, and the energy in Calgary is crazy, and like just how everything comes together. It's not like any other city that you go and visit. You can just feel it when you literally step off that airplane. So
yeah,
it's cool to see that reset, and like you almost have to have that. You almost have to leave and go and like experience other things to come back and see.
it broadens the perspective. You appreciate things that you weren't looking at the first time. There's always, that's why I've always had the idea that if you're lucky to, if you can travel, or get your kids to travel, if you travel young, it broadens your perspective and helps you realize how good you got it. Yeah. That was something when I was a young kid, I was lucky, and I got to travel. My family took me on a vacation. I went to different countries, and I'm like, these kids are my age, but they're working, and they're like selling fruit on the side of the street. It's like, maybe I have it way better than I ever thought. So it was a humbling experience just seeing that. And I mean, I always appreciate home, man, but this is a perspective that I like. Just be grateful, man. You have it good.
Yeah. And I think that's the mantra that Canada really needs to start owning, is that, and I've said this before, is that there was this sheik at a global conference, and he said that Canada's greatest strength is simultaneously its greatest weakness, which is our diversity, is that we have so many different perspectives on life that it can sometimes be hard to find the middle ground.
Right.
And we typically get caught up in politics, or the rat race, or inflation, and whatever it is. But at the end of the day, this is still one of the best places to be in the world.
Yeah.
And of the best places to be in the world, we're one of the best cities to be in the world.
Right.
Which is kind of wild, right? We're pretty fortunate people.
Yeah. So we've got to be grateful, man.
Yeah.
It's good. And the day you realize that, it gets better.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of being grateful, I think one of the things that I'm the most grateful for is this one line, and it's, the reason I'm bringing it up is because of your hat. And the line goes, "It's not how hard you hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." And you know what that's from?
Yeah, that's Rocky.
And that's the hat. he's wearing that hat like
Yeah.
there's that scene,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In that scene, right? So,
Well, there's truth behind this.
yeah.
The ability to endure is something that when I was younger, I hated the idea. Okay. There's that picture of, I've seen a picture one time and it had a little sheep and he had an arrow in his back and he was wounded. Then it has a bigger sheep beside it and he has a bunch of arrows in his back, but he's standing tall. And it says, life doesn't get easier, you just get tougher. And I thought, I don't like that. I hope that that's not the case. But over time, I've realized it is, but it's not that you're hurt way more. It's that doesn't hurt anymore. So you you work into yourself, you get better, and it, like the things that damaged you once upon a time, with a better perspective, they don't even touch you now. And this is the growth. I mean, I love that. That's something that I always thought of, and I like that lesson.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I think as a kid, it was one of the things that I was the most exposed to as well too. I think I watched Rocky every Christmas because it was kind of the thing to do, right? A lot of his movies were like shot in Philadelphia during the winter time, and even the Russia one, that was all this training was during the winter time too as well. And I always remember like that was the glory of boxing, and a lot of it felt like, I feel like a lot of people end up having to go through the stuff that he went through. That movie, obviously heavily traumatized, of course, for the sake of Hollywood, but it was a never-ending battle, and he never really won, man, in terms of like the way that people would naturally think winning would come, right? Where he gets this freedom and all of a sudden life becomes heaven, but that's not what life's about, right?
Exactly, because there's no final, it's not like, the job's never done. And that's something that I've been working on and learning over the last, my whole life really, but over the last couple of years, it's like you don't just finish and get somewhere and then all of a sudden life is good. Yeah. You always have to go through the 24 hours. There's always ups and downs, but the ability to handle these ups and downs better and better and in a great state, this is what makes you tougher. This is what makes your perspective, the way it should be. And like, I guess you have to go through it to understand it, but the struggle becomes less of a struggle when you do, and when you understand, okay, things keep going, we keep getting better, and life is actually better than you think. If you don't look at it as at the hardships, you look at, okay, now I got this. Look at the good stuff. Focus on the good stuff, and this is something that boxing taught me as well.
Yeah, and it's like stacking the hard in your favor rather than life making things hard on you. Design your life to be hard, and then everything around it becomes easy, right?
Right. Because then you just get sharper reflexes. That's why you train hard. So when you go in the fight's easy.
Yeah,
it's the same idea, right? If you prepare for life with this kind of mindset, you discipline yourself with your routines and the things that you do personally, so that you can go and handle your life in the best fashion. Because I'm strict on me. I'm not worried about what these guys are going to ask of me, because I already asked this much of myself. This is a good way to live, and kind of, I believe it's called self-efficacy, right? When you, if I say I'm going to do it, I know I'm going to do it, and I believe in myself to do it. Yeah. You improve your self-efficacy by working inwards and doing all these things. Then you go through life with better head on your shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. And going a little bit deeper into that, because you've driven a curiosity to the surface. What's your least favorite thing about boxing? Is it the running? There's something in everybody's discipline where they don't really love it, but you do it because you know the benefits are there, right?
I don't know. I couldn't. Nothing in regards to the game is ever a negative to me. I love the running. I love I didn't used to like the stretching, but now I love the stretching. I love the weight training. Because it forces you to sit down, and this is like the hardest thing ever. There's not a piece. The piece that I don't like, I guess, if I had to pick one, is that the public relations toward and the negativity that comes in sometimes. I don't like that, but I use it, and that's not something that I dislike. Oh, I wish it didn't happen. And I mean, when I fight somewhere else and all their fans are booing me and they talk, whatever, and they say these things, they message me and all this stuff, and I don't like that, but I use it. So it's the ability to take this negative and spin it And I had that a lot of times in my boxing career because I would fight on the road. I'd fight other people in their hometown. People would yell at me, message me, all this stuff. And I took that. I'm like, you say this about me, watch this then, because I'm going to prove them wrong. So I didn't like that, but I was able to utilize it. So it was a bad thing. I didn't like the public relation. I didn't like having to deal with all the people doing all this. And I guess the confrontation with people that you're not even going to fight.
Yeah,
Haters, like literally. But the ability to take that and use that, I guess, was something that I took. It was a negative. I didn't like it, but now I've used it as a positive because of experience, right? So same thing that I was saying before. It's like that used to mess me up. I used to lose sleep over that when people would message me and tell me this stuff. Now I'm excited when they do. It's like high fives for hate mail because I like when people tell me that I can't do it because now I'm gonna do it. And then when I do it, I'm always like, oh, I'm gonna tell them after, but I'm never gonna tell them. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it was something that I didn't like, turned into a good thing. So public relations was a tough one for me to get used to.
And it sucks at first. Man, it hurts so bad because for a minute you believe it.
Yeah.
And it starts to become true in your mind. We used to get that, obviously completely different stakes, but we used to get it on our forums. So because we're in Alberta, typically, you know, it's an amazing province, and oil and gas is one of our major industries here. For some reason, for the longest time, people thought we were against the oil and gas industry being a solar organization, right? Primarily solar, but we never were. We're about being cohesive and working together for the betterment of all.
Side by side.
Totally. But that wasn't the vibe. And a lot of the times, it still isn't. The amount of ridiculous comments that we would get on our Facebook channels, on blogs, and all this different stuff. But now it got to the point, and we don't get to manage anymore, but we started having fun. We started trolling.
Yeah.
We're like, you know what? We're going to lean into this, and let's just see how far we can take it.
Exactly.
Some of it turned out to be absolutely hilarious. And now Francis and MC are doing it, and hopefully they're having fun with it, and they're not letting it get them down too much. But those people are always going to be there, and all they end up doing is raising the volume, right?
Yep, exactly. Turn a negative into a positive. The more people tuning in, the more people that see, this is a good thing. And that's something that you have to deal with, especially now. It's a noisy world. So you're always like, I think about that too. Like we used to have gossip and talking and you know, in school, people would tell each other this about each other. Imagine it now.
Yeah.
Like the kids messaging and like it just, the multiplication of all these little words. But I guess that's the process of it. And then you figure out how to not take it so seriously, how to you get tougher skin. Actually, when I was a kid, my dad told me, if you're going to be in the public eye, you better have thicker skin because people are going to talk. And this was a line that I always remember because what once bothered me then doesn't bother me now. And so that's I don't know, you find a way to use that. Find a way to use the negativity and kind of fuel the fire, man. That's something that's how I got into boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a special skill. Not many people have the ability to, I suppose in the realm of psychology, they call it reframing, right? Is that you take something that is generally considered, or, you know, it comes preconceived, is that let's use the thing, something that's negative, and then you reframe it as something that's positive. Is that a skill that you developed, or do you think you inherited from somebody? Was there somebody in your life that set that example and allowed you to be able to just adapt it to yourself?
I was definitely told to do it, but sometimes we're stubborn, and life taught me to do it because I didn't do it at first. And the negative happened, I would spiral and I'd get mad and I would go party with my friends, or I'd get in, you know, arguments with people. I'd get in all, it just went, but then I realized that doesn't go anywhere. Nothing good happens from that. So I remember actually one time I had a fight in the United States in Indio, California, when I fought against Yves Ulysses Jr. Fought him the second time. I had won the first fight. I took the second fight, and it was, details aside, I was not favored to win, despite the fact that I had won the first. And what happened was I lost a decision where it's very, very close. And the judges' scorecards were a clean sweep for him. And I knew what was going on. It's a political game. But anyways, besides the point, the loss had me in the state where I was depressed, I was mad, I was angry, I felt robbed, I felt wronged because I knew this going into it. But instead of sulking and getting upset and, going down a negative spiral, I started doing something forward. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get back to trading. I don't care. Something good's going to happen. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to start working on this, add my strength and conditioning. I started taking steps forward. And then I found that if you do that, something will hit. Something good will happen. So long as you move forward positively, you're going to run into good things. But if you sit in your sadness and dwell in this negativity of, oh, I lost the fight, I'm mad, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to retaliate, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you start going, maybe you will. So that was like a big life lesson for me. When bad things happen, keep moving, because something good will come if you go that way. But nothing good is going to happen right here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's scary, right? Because I think just building off what you're saying there is that if you start to ruminate and like sit in that anger, there can be good things slapping you right in the face.
And you won't see it.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
And that's always the saddest part I see with even myself. I have those moments and I see it with other individuals. It's always easier to see it on other people, right? But I'm getting to the point, and having children has really done that, where I can see right on the surface, like exactly when I cross that line myself, and I try to capture myself. I'm like, hold on, this is not what I'm meant to do and what I'm meant to be. And I think we even had a good conversation about that yesterday, right? Is that you can either be owned by your circumstances or own your circumstances.
Right.
And just with that in mind, like with all of this that you've been through, I think, have you gotten to the point, especially with that specific situation where it went to the judges' scorecards? A lot of fighters will end up saying is that you never leave it in their hands, become undeniable, right? Is beat that person so badly or knock them out that nobody can say anything.
Right.
So after that happened, is that a piece that you started adapting to your game? Like almost, I think Jorge Masvidal really went through that in the UFC, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always knew that. And then when I started fighting 10 rounders, it kind of became more evident because decisions in other people's hometowns were not going my way. And I learned, okay, that is the way to take it out of the judge's hands. But the guy doesn't always let you do that. The guy you're fighting is doing everything to try and prevent that. So that's where why there's so many layers to the game. There's so many intricacies, because it's like, what was he working on during that training camp? What is he preparing for you to bring? And there's so much that goes into it. But for sure, you want the knockout. In the game of boxing, you want the knockout because it sells tickets. It brings the fans back, makes the show better. And this is why they call it the hurt business, because it's tough for the guy who's on the receiving end, but the game is the game, man. And so if you can get the chance to take that knockout, you go for it and you make it count.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than being a journeyman.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you do not want to be a journeyman. And sorry, we're electricians. Being a journeyman's a good thing.
Yeah, in the combat world,
right?
No.
But in the boxing world, you don't want to be that guy that just shows up to be able to, check another box for an up and comer, right? To get that ever elusive whatever win and zero behind it, because that's a big thing in boxing world too, right? That seems to be propped up, and a lot of fighters end up going through that process of undefeated, right? It gets a lot of status behind it, and obviously you've had a couple losses and stuff like that. How freeing was that when you went through that first loss?
Freeing is not the term I would use because it was devastating, and I thought at that time that my career's over, because at the point in time where I lost, it was the Mayweather era where everyone needed to be undefeated, and now and then now luckily it's changing as the tides change, and there's fighters with losses. Like there always has been. It was just one guy who came up and stayed and put a spotlight on his O and kept the O. And this was like when it happened to me, when I lost at the first loss I ever had, my life changed badly, because I was very injured in that fight. I came back and everyone was a little bit different. I had been undefeated. I was like this up and coming star, and then it changed so much. I had friends like kind of turn on me. Like, hey, I had a lot of stuff happen to me that it changed my life. And that's why I say not freeing. It was actually the opposite. It trapped me, because now am I going to go down the path of being a journeyman. I only have one loss, but people don't. Now that what they were offering me last week, they're offering me half that this week, and they're offering it to me with if you don't want this, don't ever talk to us again. And it's just, the game is unforgiving. The industry is too. So the ability to endure came because I had to. I'm not going to quit when I lose one fight. That's not like who I am, I guess. And that's that's the way I was raised. That's like, you don't quit when you don't take your ball and go home. You get through, you endure, you go forward. And then only through this process of enduring and working at it again did I learn all the things I learned and become who I am now, because I could have quit. I could have left as soon as that happened. I mean, I really could have, because it was a tough one, and it took me 6 months until I was back. I got injured in the fight, and it took me a long time till I was back to being able to train, being able to get ready for a fight and consider having a fight. Like, there's all this stuff that goes into it. But that was a life-changing moment. But then as I look back at it now, it was a huge hurdle that, overcoming that, I learned that I can jump. You know what I mean? So I figured out, it was terrible then, but now it's a good thing, because if that kind of situation comes around, I know how to handle these kinds of things. Ups and downs are a part of life. Now we do everything in our power to make sure that we don't face those terrible downs, especially in the game of boxing, where preparation is the key. But that was a growing experience. And what once put an arrow in my back and put me down, if this happened to me again, and did happen to me again 6 more times, I was able to face it, endure it, and keep going forward. So life lesson wasn't a good one. Wasn't an easy one, but it was a good one.
It was a good one, yeah. Yeah, and I think taking the L's are important, right? We've taken some nasty ones that have like even brought us to tears, where it's just like, how did this happen, right? Like those moments of I'll call it what it is, darkness.
Yeah.
Like I tend to go back to those places as necessary, because when life becomes too easy, they call it, especially in the boxing, they always talk about the silk sheets, right?
Right.
The silk sheets are the trap.
Yeah.
That's the real trap, right? It's
Yeah.
once if you get to that level and you win and the money comes with it, then the silk sheets come right after that. It's hard to be able to break out of it, right?
Yes.
And I suppose that's the irony, is that going back to the key messaging behind everything that we're talking about today, is that there's never really an end to this whole thing.
No.
So I know that obviously sharing today that you have that goal, winning the championship.
Yeah, the world title.
And the world title, yeah.
The world title, though, the big one. I'm right there. I'm close, but that one, that's what I want.
And are you so focused on that all your energy and everything is focused into that one moment? Or have you had a chance to take a look past what that looks like?
Me, I like to focus one fight at a time. So you focus on the next fight is everything. Obviously, stepping back from boxing, I look at my entire life. So I'm able to like broaden my perspective. Okay, I want a home where I can, have a family and raise my kids and do the things that I it's kind of separate from the game, but I'm able to separate the two. And this is an important skill to have, I guess. And I've looked at it and what I want to do down the road. But as far as a fighter, I'm like, the next fight. I'm thinking just about the next one, preparation for the next one, get ready for the next one. That's everything. And this kind of tunnel vision is good to have for event style games and sports, and I guess even achievements in life. But that lock-in focus, that's something that I've been thriving on, so I'm still doing it.
Nice. That's intense. That's intense, especially when you're going after something like the world title, right? It's I personally, just speaking openly here, I don't think I'd be able to look past that point. And it's the same danger as like looking past an opponent, right?
Right.
Is that if you discount the individual in front of you, they're going to discount you for good.
Exactly.
Right. So it's dangerous. And I'll be honest with you, man, like I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it, because I know we have our battles, but they're very much taken care of in the boardroom, where you can have hours worth of conversations, have strategic sessions, try to be able to negotiate with the other side, whether it be with words, contracts, or whatever else it is in our world. But in yours, it's literally it. Like you have 10 rounds is your game now, right?
Yeah.
You have 10 rounds, 2 minutes per round.
3
minutes per round. And if you don't settle it there,
That's it.
that's it.
That's why we call it the one take business. So you get one take, you get one shot to do it, and then all your preparation leading up to that night, that half an hour is you put 8 weeks into that, and then when you get there and they go action, it's time to do it. And this is where pressure and that's why we said the one take business. When you get that shot, how to prepare to do it on the time that you're supposed to do it. That's a life skill, man. That's like a tough one, but over so many repetitions, I mean, when you've done it again and again and again, you kind of get better at doing it because, you have more ways to do it. You know the severity of it, yes, but you also have more preparation towards doing it. So it's kind of rinse and repeat, but just get better in the process,
Yeah, absolutely. It always seems to come back down to processes.
Yes.
Everything in life, just simplifying them down to there's basic steps, not overcomplicating them by adding too many, right? So I think that's beautiful in the way that you're kind of presenting that. So your next fight, do you have that lined up? Is it ready to go?
Yes, sir. September 8th in Gatineau, Quebec.
September. Okay, that's right around the corner.
Yes, sir.
So you're in the middle of a training camp right now then?
I technically just started. 8 weeks out was a couple days ago, but I've been training since the last one. So I don't really, I never like to look at it as a training camp because I'll get better during this time. And then after the fight, I'm going to rely. It's like, no, if you get better, you'll be better. So I listen to my body. I know when I'm, overtrained or I'm worn down and I need to recover, but I'm just gradually improving. And gradual improvement is the name of the game because if you get better, you'll be better. And whenever they give me the call, I'll show up with what I got. I know I've been working on it. I know I'm ready. And September 8th is not far away, but I've been working for it my whole life. And especially over the last couple of years, I've been putting everything in. So September 8th, I'm pumped to show it.
And who is it that you're fighting on the 8th?
I'm fighting Carlos Sanchez. He's 24-1. He's a very good fighter, and he's challenging me for the belt that I just won in the last one. So I'm defending the title. And then we always say, you're the champ when you win, but you're the champion when you defend. Because you keep it when somebody's coming to try and take it from you. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be exciting. Is it going to be broadcasted anywhere?
Yeah, it'll be on ESPN and it'll be on punchinggrace.com. Everything, you can find all this stuff for me on Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger is my promoter and they have all the information. You can find Eye of the Tiger on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So everything's up there and you'll be able to find all the details.
Yeah, and we're going to make sure that it's included in our links as well too, because we're definitely going to be tuning in. Like I know that actually is really good news for me because the next set of fights that I was looking forward to is in the first weekend of October,
right?
Which is basically the next major UFC card,
right?
That seems to be the sport that I'm the most consistent on. Boxing's a little bit hard because of all the different unification, and it's just it can be very exhausting to follow everything, right? So
if boxing had a league, it would do it a lot of good. Yeah. But the problem is when everybody's got their own, organizations, nobody wants to give it the power and go into this league. Yeah, everyone's their own boss, and I mean, why would they? So I don't know what would have to happen for boxing to unify in that sense, but it would really help get a lot of the big fights that everyone's asking for. It would kind of put a demand on it. It's what they do in the UFC. Everyone's under the same banner.
Yeah.
So their promoters deciding who fights. That's why the best guys fight the best guys, and there's no disagreement. Oh, this much. I want this. I want 60%. You get 40%. Like that doesn't happen because everyone's got the same overhead.
Yeah.
And this is something that the game of boxing is missing, but I don't know if they're ever going to be able to pull it off.
Well, I know Dana White, the president of the UFC, tried building his own organization. He was hinting at it for a little while, right? I think it was more of it kind of fizzled out, and that was one really good opportunity. I was so excited for that to happen. He has a habit of just wearing T-shirts with businesses that he wants to create, and they just don't come into fruition.
Yeah.
But that would have been awesome to see to come to life because there is a lot of disorganization, and I think one of the most hyped fights right now is Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury, which is that heavyweight champion or I guess he kind of got kicked out of the UFC or left. Actually, he left. And Francis is now getting the opportunity of a lifetime, right? He earned it too. He's been through a lot, but it's Tyson Fury.
the thing is that they're gonna box, so it might be a repeat of the last time this happened. Mayweather McGregor. He's fighting him in his rules. He's not gonna turn into a slick boxer overnight. There's when that fight happened, the Mayweather McGregor. I gave this metaphor to people. I said, could the best badminton player compete against the best tennis player in tennis? No. It's a different game. They may have similar ideas behind the rules, but it's totally different. So everything about it is different. The timing is different. The angles are different. The whole game is different. And then I see the exact same thing happening here. Tyson Fury is gonna box him up because it's a boxing match.
Totally. For what it's worth, though, I think it was in the 8th round, that uppercut that Conor McGregor got on.
Yeah, he landed some shots, but it's a fight, right?
It is, totally.
And I love that because not only did they build the fight, but they brought everybody in. It was. I watched it.
We couldn't find a place to watch it. We ended up having to go in the deep south, like Walden or something. We went to like 10 different bars before we finally found one.
Yeah. So I mean, you get if it makes dollars, it makes sense. That's
totally.
The rule. That's the line, right? So I mean, if they're selling the tickets, that's why all these YouTube guys are fighting, and
we had Jake Paul and Nate Diaz.
Exactly. So here we go. And then as a fighter myself, I don't hate the circus. I just want to be on the undercard because then we are involved. My team's involved. We're involved. And,
Totally.
And you can't hate the growth, and you don't hate the player. You hate the game.
Yeah.
But these guys are coming. They're bringing new fans in. It's bringing more eyes to the sport. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's.
You know what I mean? And
it brought me back to life.
Yeah. And then,
sport,
and then it's going to be awesome because Francis Ngannou can punch, so he's going to be swinging. And
what do they say? It's like you're getting hit by a Chevy Malibu going 60 kilometers per hour or something like that.
That's
punching. Yeah, there's something. They made it some ridiculous comparison, but it's like getting hit by a car pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, this is. But this is what happens when you get these guys. I believe Tyson Fury's 6'9". I don't know how 6'9". Yeah, I don't know how tall Ngannou is, but
and he's like the Undertaker. That moment against Deontay Wilder, where you
just wake up
life at the 9th second.
Yeah,
mind blowing, man. I saw that.
I love this. There's just so many details and things, but that's what it gets people going. This is what creates the excitement. And again, that's why I say I just want to hop on those undercards because that's a big show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think. We went off on a good tangent there, but September the 8th, you're going to be fighting Gatineau. Yes. You got a good fight coming up against a guy. He sounds fresh, right? He's 24-1. Yeah. He's ideally going to be 24-2. Yes. And he's not going to snatch that belt from you. I think it's going to have
a chance.
Man, this has been a special conversation, man. Like, I think we met a lot of awesome people. You're just on the surface. Like you're right here, which is rare. I don't think. It's a different kind of energy, right?
Hey, I'm happy to be here, man. And that in the gym we would say we grow together so we can show together. So if you get better together, then you show the world what you can do. And I feel the same with you guys here. So we're bringing some light to our city, to the scene, and then only good things are gonna happen from it, man.
So I love that, bringing light to the city.
Yes, sir.
That's great, man. That's great. Well. I know Kai's gonna want to say a piece here as well too. From me and like from my heart, man. I hope I sense that you're gonna end up winning that fight, and I'm definitely gonna tune in. There's a part of me that actually wants to kind of just fly out there and go. I know you do. I can sense it in you too. Yeah. It's like, we could go to that. Maybe it's not a bad idea.
Hey, I was thinking about making a little deal, bring all the friends out there, put everybody on. What you know what I mean? So
let us go. Let us know. I really want to see a pro fight live. I never have.
Yeah, I never have either.
Yeah, so like let us know what that is and if we can support in any way possible. I would love to. I think I'm bought in, man. I'm in on your journey. I want to see you get to that world title. And when the time comes that you get that gym, let us know. And we'll hook up the solar, do some EV charging stations, and make it fresh as well too.
Let's get come for some lessons too.
100%.
I got you guys.
100%. Maybe me and you can duke it out, race.
Oh man.
Yeah. I got the advantage of the reach. You might have the power, so it'll be a good little fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's been a pleasure having you on this episode, and this 6th episode has been a special one, man. It's I don't really know what to say. Usually I don't have a lack of words at the end of the show, but this has definitely been a special one, man. It's been awesome to get some of you in these moments.